Hey everyone, welcome to the Craft Beer Professionals 2025 Spring Virtual Conference. Small Batch Standard is pumped to be the day one sponsor, and we're even more excited to help you generate more profit. Right now, today, it has never been harder to generate profit in the craft brewing industry. And here's why. If these two graphs don't paint a clear picture of what's happening in craft today, I don't know what will. In order to help you navigate this, we have put something together just for you. We call it the Small Batch Standard Profit Plays. These are excerpts from our profit playbook and include our top strategies for boosting profit at your brewery. And because you're here today, you get those plays for free. So head over to sbstandard.com/CBP to claim your copy. Thanks for being here and enjoy the talk.
All right, excellent. Big welcome to everybody tuning in. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. My name is Magnus. I'll be hosting a presentation today on a topic that is dear to heart around making sensible investments. We've called it avoid overengineering when not to invest in brewery technology. The flip side of that is make smart decisions, get tooling that you need, don't get more than what you need, and make sure whatever you get fits well together. As a sort of summary. Big thank you for Craft Beer Professionals for hosting this year after year, and I'm excited to dig in. So, my name is Magnus. I am the CEO of PLAATO, been leading up the company for the past 4 years, touching very briefly on what we do so that you also have the context of where I'm coming in to this conversation. Firstly, the PLAATO Pro is a fermentation monitoring sensor and cloud solution that helps us get a better overview what's happening in the cellar. In addition to this year as well, we're launching what we call the PLAATO Edge, which allows you to capture data on the hot side, in addition to the cold side, all the way through the packaging line, and to really have that high-level picture of how things are flowing through your whole facility. So we provide technology, and I'm hosting a presentation on what not to invest in technology. So good to keep in mind. But what I always tell our customers, and also dig into the understanding, what is the problem you're trying to solve? Whatever solution you're looking to solve for, whether it be in kind of optimizing your financial routines, it is on the production side, if it is people and employee tracking, if it is the mechanical side, or making kind of investments into equipment. So digging in, and also today, I hope to be able to provide some frameworks on how to make these decisions in a smart way. So there will probably be a lot of opinions on a topic such as this. I will share my perspectives, but firstly, just covering a bit on the role of technology in brewing, a bit on the history side as well. What we see in terms of common over-engineering pitfalls, when we consider technology a must-have versus a need-to-have, and maybe how you can sort these two and make a divide where to put your resources and your time. A couple of metrics and frameworks for smart technology decision-making, and also lastly, sharing some lessons learned. And there are typically very few questions on these sessions, but if you have anything at all, feel free to put it into the chat at the end of the presentation or just during, and I'll pick up on these at the end. All right, a bit of the history of technology, and especially in brewing, which is kind of interesting on the fact that the brewing industry has been quite important for the development of some scientific practices. These are two examples from Carlsberg, who's been around for a long time, but both in the sense of helping kind of invest and utilize the pH scale in brewing for quality and consistency, and also quite an advanced development on yeast and how to propagate yeast and kind of how to make these pure strains. So if we look 100 years back, the brewing industry was on the forefront of scientific discovery in parts of kind of the research aspect. But what we see today and what I see today is that the overall industry is what I'd consider a laggard. We use a lot of manual processes. The technologies that are readily available in many other manufacturing industries have not yet been adopted. But if we then flip that around and consider it an opportunity, we have the ability to take tried and tested solutions from other industries where we've seen this working and implement it at typically much lower prices for the benefits of both your brewery and the overall industry, which is quite exciting because you don't necessarily have to adopt and spend big resources on bleeding edge tech. And jumping on, where do we kind of see overall objectives that we'd like to pursue, also to help us see if any given technology is a solution or a distraction? Firstly, what we hear from a lot of our customers, and part of the reason PLAATO does what it does, is because achieving consistency and a high level of quality on every single batch across every single recipe, being your flagship line or being kind of the seasonal that you do, is among the hardest things to achieve in a brewery. So avoiding those batch to batch variations, making sure that we get what we're looking for every single time, requires diligence in how you work, how you track it, and also routines, also in the team, because making sure that kind of if you have different teams of brewers, how do you make sure that they do the same thing every single time, whoever is on job at the given day? So consistency and quality control, hard and requires diligence and effort. Second part, how do we run the brewery as a proper manufacturing business for high efficiency, scrutinizing and understanding cost, and working to become a little bit better month after month, year after year. So optimizing your throughput for the capacity that you need based on what you're able to sell, offer, and also make sure you have staffing and equipment to go along with that. And there is a lot of theory in this area around, for instance, Six Sigma, the lean. You can look at manufacturing theory from 50 to 100 years back on how do we run an efficient operation. Personally, I like the lean methodology. You can get started with that pretty easily, but it really also at the heart of it is reducing waste. So if you're spending too much time on something, if you're spending more energy cooling than what is required, if you are taking out too much liquids in your gravity readings, you have a waste there. If you could be propagating yeast, but you're throwing it, you could be saving money and saving resources on that. So efficiency and cost reductions, and having that as a continuous improvement project. Lastly, which goes a bit hand in hand with the other two as well, but like whatever solutions or technologies you are investing in, make sure that it can grow with you, support you in becoming more efficient, more consistent, looking after your team, manage increasing production volumes so that you get more for less. And to share just a couple of examples on this as well, where could technology fit in? And really finding the balancing act will be up to each and every brewery of what makes sense to you and your setup. But we still see the paper brew sheets hanging out from manor vessels across the world. You could go fully digital in your ERP and your production management system, find out what works. But typically, if you have a paper brew sheet, how much time do you spend putting that into Excel later? And if you don't put it into Excel later, do you really have access to that data the time you need it for quality control or kind of efficiency analytics? Second part, just comparing again, a manual sample could be kind of the coloring, the pH, the gravity, whatever quality control procedure you have, doing it manually versus automated data collection, which could then also feed the digital system. In many cases, it'll do the same thing, maybe a different frequency of the readings. Do you get the data you need to run your business effectively and keep producing great beer? It's one of the questions. Lastly, we see people spending quite a lot of time on that manual data input that I mentioned in Excel, plotting things out, looking at it. You could have also smart tooling supporting you on graphing and mapping these things out. Again, will you use it if you get more data? What will be the value of that data? And figuring out what are the objectives of what you're trying to achieve. But there's going to be technology solutions for more or less whichever problem you're looking to solve these days, which can also make it hard to decide. So a bit of encouragement. If you have a bottleneck, a breaking point, something that is difficult for you or your team or your brewery to deal with, call it a bottleneck, figure out what that is. And also recognize that if you solve the one problem, there will be a new one coming up on the back of that, and a new one, and a new one, and a new one. So kind of figuring out where it makes sense to place your bets, to make your investments, that will be up to you and your team, and some of the examples I'll share on how to prioritize later on. All right, sorry for all of the text here. Maybe I will not read through all of it, but some of the times that we see kind of people go too far with technology, and it probably goes against personal preference. I'm an engineer, which also means that engineers like engineering solutions to problems, but that can also get you into trouble. If you're looking at kind of technology because you're interested in technology and you're getting maybe too many tools, which also plays into the next one, you might be risk getting solutions that don't fit well together, and also you risk taking on too many innovation programs for your team to actually handle and manage and implement. That leads into a third point here on having bought something that really didn't catch on. You probably have one or more tools that you're not utilizing as good as you were hoping, or maybe just that turned out to they weren't as good as you thought, so people don't like using them. So lack of adoption is a very classic problem when we see people buying expensive tools and fancy solutions. You think you need kind of DO for a particular process, turns out hard to get the accurate data, and ends up not being used. Could be said for almost any category of tooling. So figure out and do the due diligence upfront on what will be the value that we're looking for. Is this the right vendor or solution for us to work with? Point number 4 there on challenges when it comes to buying technology and kind of complex solutions are the hidden cost of getting started. So this is something I'd encourage you to ask any vendor. If you are looking for a kind of software solution, if it's a hardware solution, if it's a training program for your team, but like, what does it take to succeed with this? Get a good understanding of how that team plans to be there for you, what it costs to operate something over time, the experience others have had on running the same. So, but understand what it will take to succeed with whichever tool or solution you're going to go for. And an interesting perspective that I think we're facing, not just in kind of breweries, but the sake of craftsmanship. If we invest in automation across every bit and piece of our facility and our brewery versus the gut feel of the craft and what we're making, how much is left for us? Are we going to run that? Is it all about the cost and efficiency? Is it something about the human aspect of making something? And in the box below there, we imagine a world of full automation. Kind of how do we train up the brewers of tomorrow? And similarly, almost any occupation, if a software developer's example, that ChatGPT or the smart tooling can write all of the code for them and do the heavy lift for them, how are we ever going to be trained and learn the hard-earned lessons learned? But I'll leave that for smarter people than myself to find out. And skipping on to what makes something a must-have versus a nice-to-have. Now, I don't know about the experience of people sitting in the forum here, and do feel free to drop some lines if you have some experiences, maybe particularly having bought something and sourced a solution that ended up not being too great. Those are always the best stories. The ones that just work out perfectly, much easier to sell and to describe. But what makes something a must-have for a business? Firstly, efficiencies, and that can be both kind of the throughput, it can be the quality, could be waste reduction. Look for where you're going to get significant benefits. Change is hard, so make sure that it's worthwhile doing it. And benefits are nice, but there's also the risk reduction aspect of it. So if you've had challenges in your production that have led to exploding beer cans in the store, lost batches due to glycol systems failing, other challenges, like what levels of risk reduction can we implement in monitoring equipment, in quality control routines? So investing in things that need to be in place for you to successfully operate your business. And as I've said before as well, get solutions that scale with your business and will for some time to come. Make sure you don't have to build and set up new solutions every 6 months as you keep growing. Make sure they will grow with you and pick vendors that want to work with you on your journey. On the flip side of this, the nice to haves, which we really don't have time for, any of us, low ROI, return on investment. If something isn't worth much, make then sure it is very easy to get started and has a low risk associated with it. If it adds complexity, some things you add a solution that needs to be tied into 3-4 others. The danger there when you start integrating everything, firstly, you might risk getting stuck in these solutions. Secondly, if your core systems start getting fed data from things that might not work out well, will you still depend on them? And kind of getting stuff because it's cool, because it makes you look forward leaning, probably not a good motivation, but still, if it's something that the team appreciates, could be worth it from time to time. So on the bottom there, context is king. If you have too much production capacity today, it probably doesn't make sense to invest in more throughput. And making sure that you know at any given time, what are the business objectives we're going to try to solve for? What is going to be important for us in the months, quarters, and years ahead should really impact what are you going to invest in and what should we look for? Sorry about that, wrong way. Okay, so you've started looking at a solution to a problem. How can we, in a systematic and structured way, figure out, is this worth it for us? Firstly, I always ask for what is the return on the investment and what is going to be the payback time. And any one of your vendors should have a way to communicate this to you. My pro tip on this is typically like run those numbers with them. Make sure whatever variables you put into the model, and PLAATO, a very simple one to calculate is, if we can help you save time on manual samples, what is that going to be worth to you? But run those numbers with the vendor so that you learn. And the honest truth is, like, it's typically never as good as those numbers show. So just divide them by 3. And if it still makes sense, then you probably have a pretty good case on your hands. Of course, depending on what does it cost to invest in it. We'll get back to that one in a bit. On the top right, what I mean by bottleneck analysis, it doesn't mean that you need to go in and calculate the flow every single process step, but figure out what is slowing down your business today. Is it the fact that you're getting kind of the raw ingredients are too late? Is it the fact that you're scheduling the staff in a suboptimal way? Is it that you could be producing more in the high season leading up to summer if you had more throughput? Or is it the financial routines, which means that you can't buy what you need on time? Figuring these things out, what is the bottleneck slowing you down? And there could be more than one. And also remember, once you solve for one and increase the capacity on that one, you'll have a new one and a new one and a new one. So being deliberate about this. What are the handful of things slowing us down? What is the sequence we should aim to solve them? And you'll always have a bottleneck. So choose which ones you're going to land on and solve the others. Bottom left, effort versus impact. Figuring out how hard is it going to be to solve this problem, and is it going to be worth that effort? And you can really plot this out on a simple 2x2 matrix, figure out if something is a quick win, if it's a waste of time, or if it's one of those big flagship projects that we should really invest in. Show a bit more of that in a second. But lastly, whatever solution you choose to go for, you've done your diligence, you've looked at the ROI, you've mapped out how hard is it going to be to succeed with this. You've also found that this solves one of the problems that we really are looking to solve this quarter or this year. Pick up the phone, call a friend, ask for a reference, and really just scrutinize. Did the solution meet people's expectations? Was it harder to use than they expected? Was it easier to use? And ideally, somebody's been using a solution for a couple of years will also be able to help you answer a question that I encourage everyone to ask, like, do you like working with these people? If you've had a challenge and you had a problem with it, are there somebody you can reach out to? Did they solve that problem? Did they look after you in the process? It'll tell a lot about who you're choosing to partner with. Return on investment. There are online models that simplify this a great deal, but very simply put, if you make an investment, what is the value you can expect to get out from that? If it's time savings, if it's increase in production, if it is increasing quality that you believe will lead to increased sales and brand, figure these things out. Try to put some numbers on them, which means you can put it up in an equation. And if that benefit is going to be worth $10,000 and it costs you $2,000 to get it, well, guess what? You have an ROI of 5. This thing will pay for itself in a matter of months if it's paid annually or whichever way it is. So that means you can figure out quite precisely, is this going to be worth it for us? And is it worth the investment? And then pick up the tip that if you find that that is an ROI of kind of 5, try to divide it by 3, and you still see, okay, that number is definitely more than 1, which means it is going to be a net contributor to our business. And it always should be. Another framework, which kind of stealing on the ROI could definitely be part of the y-axis here on the high impact or low impact. Does it have a big impact on the financials of the business? It could be an initiative that looks after team members by making sure they don't do as many midnight shifts, but figuring out a way to quantify how important is this for us. And then on the effort as well, how hard is this going to be? Is this going to take a lot of capacity? Is it going to be easy or hard to solve this challenge with the team and the capabilities that we have? So these little quadrants, if something is high effort, it's hard to do, but it's also high impact, so it will make a big difference for us. Well, it could be one of the priority projects for the year or for the quarter. If it's high impact and low effort, let's just go. Quick win. Get that one on the books. These are perfect. High effort, low impact, typically not something you want to do. But low impact, low effort, could be just do it initiatives and actions. And something that I alluded to as well, like whatever solution you're going for, I like to consider that our customers are partners. Ask that question in return as well. Are these people you'd like to sit opposite of if something goes wrong, or if you run into a problem, or you need some extra level of support? How are they going to be treating you? Is it someone that you appreciate the dynamics with? Is it a team of people that you trust? And again, picking up the phone, if you know somebody, they have a reference, somebody you worked with in the past, pick up the phone. Takes you 3 minutes, and they will be able to answer quickly if these are people kind of, have they lived up to their expectations? Have they lived up to their promises? So take that time and do the diligence. All right, for what it's worth, a little bit of knowledge on lessons learned. When you start looking for any sort of improvement projects, make sure you know your starting point. It's really hard to say, have we improved? Yes, no, if you don't have any sort of baseline. So having a starting point, how good are we today? Implementing a solution, that's the action, and then measure that impact. Then you'll be able to see we moved from A to B and it took us 3 months. Prioritizing the impact over novelty. And to some extent, that brings me back to one of my first points, that the whole brewing industry can implement solutions that had a positive impact in other manufacturing industries, process industries, food tech industries. So we can get a lot of that impact while the novelty was really explored and paid for by someone else over the last 5, 10, 15 years. Start small, grow and scale from there. I heard a smart quote that kind of any complex system ever developed was built and based on a small working system and had evolved from there. So figure out the problem, do a proof of concept, learn about it, see it in action, and then grow from there. You don't need to go all in from the start. Number 4 there, get your team involved. If you push a solution onto someone and they don't really care for it, guess what? It's not going to succeed. So bring them aboard, get them motivated. Ideally, have people involved in the decision-making process as well, so they feel ownership of it. The world's best solution without adoption gives you a kind of 0% benefit. Lock-ins can be scary, like multi-year projects that you get for a bargain price, but then you're also stuck with something, can be one thing. So contractual lock-ins, data lock-ins as well is something that I encourage everyone to ask for. Like if you're choosing to work with a vendor, do they have what's called open APIs where their data can be linked to other sources? Say that you're using an ERP system, you'd like them also to be talking to financial system. So make sure that whatever you are choosing to work with is future-proof and willing to work with others. And we've looked at kind of the impact and the cost, what's called a life cycle analysis, the lifetime value of a project and the lifetime cost of a value. Figure out, is something going to be expensive over time? Is it going to keep continually giving you a high return on investment? Or is it going to cost more and more as we grow and go along? So figuring out what is the upfront cost and what is the running cost. Both very important as you pick and choose different vendors and solutions. Validate improvement, been covered extensively. And again, in the comments, what have you learned? I will wrap up very shortly here, but in terms of some last words, we are surrounded by technology in our daily lives, not just our work lives. Some of it is very advanced. A lot of it is quite simple. The hydrometer is also a piece of technology. It was just invented hundreds of years ago. But when you choose the next innovations that will help push your business forward, make sure you do it on the rationale of how do you want to evolve your business? Where are the areas you want to improve? And go make sure that the solutions you're looking at will actually help you solve that problem and that it can help you and your team reach these. So when in doubt, call a friend. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them into the chat. And if not, anything you'd like to discuss with me or Team PLAATO, I'm easily available at magnus@plaato.io, and I would love to hear from you. Have a good one.